Okay, start again.
Hello, I am Timothy Damiano, and I'm here today with Father Mykola Krywonos. Now tell me, Father Mykola, how many people did you give communion to and bless in the Ukraine?
I was in a small town, Chuhuryu, where there is a basic training camp for the Ukrainian soldiers, which holds approximately 1,500 soldiers. Out of the 1,500, we gave communion to 600 of them in 5.5 hours.
Wow, now that's a lot of people and a lot of time. Now, you're against Russia, correct?
What was that?
You're against... the Ukraine is being attacked by Russia, correct?
Yes.
Well, see this map? This right here is the Ukraine. See this little... See that right there? That's the Ukraine. See all of this? That's Russia. No.
And most of Russian land is swampland. They cannot grow wheat, they cannot grow grapes, they cannot grow rye or sunflower seeds. It's that the weather is just too cold to grow anything good
The Ukraine...
that could support the Russian people. And the Russian President Putin is trying to form the Soviet Union back again. Which controls people, controls their freedom, doesn't let them go anywhere without documents at all times. So this is what we are trying to prevent Russia from taking over Ukraine. Because once he takes over Ukraine, the rest of the countries will fall under Russia again. Because Ukraine is the second largest European country. Russia is the first. They have about 145 million people. Ukraine has about 48 million. And all the other countries are smaller, a lot smaller, probably half of Ukraine. And this is why he's trying to get the Soviet Union back again. But he's not going to succeed because the whole world is against him.
And you know how he said that Russia can't grow any of those things? The Ukraine, on the other hand, can.
Ukraine has been called, and is still called, the breadbasket of Europe. It supplies most of the wheat and rye for all of Europe, for bread, cakes, things like that. A lot of the oil from sunflower seed is supplied by the Ukrainian nation. And this is what most Europeans depend on to live on. Because a lot of them cannot grow wheat or rye, which is used for bread.
Including the Russians. They all buy stuff from the Ukraine that they can't grow. And Russia wants to take control of it. Normally Russia just pays, but now Russia doesn't want to pay anymore. So it's trying to take control of the Ukraine so it can have it all to themselves.
Timothy, could you show us the other pictures?
Oh yeah. Now tell me. About your family. Didn't you have a family member?
The soldiers. The pictures of the soldiers.
Oh, right. Now I know I'll just show you that. Now look. See these people? Most of the soldiers that he blessed and baptized were just ordinary people.
They were already baptized. I think he gave them confession and communion.
All of the people that he gave communion and blessed and gave confession to most of them didn't even go to camp. They just signed up to be a soldier because they wanted to defend their
Show
country.
me the picture, honey. Hold the picture out to me.
It's very interesting. Now let's take a word. Now let's take a word from Father Mykola. What was it like? Baptizing, blessing, and giving communion and confession to all of those people.
It was very serious. Very, how would I say, worrying that we might lose some of these people, which we did when they went on the front to fight Russia. 5 of them died from the 93rd Brigade, which we gave communion to. That's enough.
And
Can you show us another picture?
and just to prove that there really was about 600 people, aka soldiers, they baptized. Look
Timmy,
at
stop saying baptized. That's the wrong word.
I mean, gave communion to and that. Look at this.
Lined
Is
up.
that the one long line?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Timmy, put the pictures on the taller table so baby can't get them. Careful with the pictures.
Okay. Now, there's one more story that I think you would love for him to tell you.
Let's hear about World War II.
In World War II, guess what happened?
Let's let Father tell a story, Timmy.
Well,
Ask him about what happened.
What happened in World War II with you?
Well, I was born in 1937. In 1942, the Nazis attacked Poland, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and they went as far as Russia. And in order to keep the soldiers fighting, they needed slave labor to work in the German factories in Germany. So they took many of the Ukrainians from different villages, and from our village, they took about a quarter of the village with families completely, father, mother, children, and so forth. I had a younger sister, an older brother and sister, mother, father, and we were shipped to Germany to be in concentration camps, and my parents and my brother and sister worked in a factory. My sister and I were weeding the gardens in the summer and in the spring. So the soldiers, the German soldiers, could go and fight on the Russian front. And that's why they kept us in concentration camp. We used to get 2 pounds of bread for 6 of us a day. And they made some kind of broth to go with the bread. We did not get any vegetables, any potatoes, corn, or anything like that. Just the broth and the bread. For 3 years, till the end of the war in 1945.
Tell us about General Patton.
Now what?
Now tell us about General Patton.
Oh.
The reason that Hitler's not
In
alive.
In 1945, we came to the end of the war. General George Patton, who was a 3-star general under Eisenhower, he was in charge of the Armored Division of the American Army. And he took his 3rd Army with all the tanks and defeated the Germans. And he asked President Truman to let him go and finish off the Russians as well. Truman refused. And while he was like general who was in charge of all of Germany. And he had control of the Nazis in Germany. And he used to ride a white horse. And one day I was going by where he was riding, and he was on his white horse with the two pistols at his side, which made of ivory, 6-shooters. He stopped in front of me and motioned to me to come closer. When I looked up at him, I thought he was 10 feet tall. The biggest man I ever saw in my life. He threw an orange down to me. At that time, I didn't know what an orange was. I tried to bite into it and made a face because it was sour. I was biting right through the skin, the peel of the orange. George Patton got off his horse, took off his white gloves, peeled the orange, and showed me how to separate each piece in order to eat it. And then later on, I found out who George Patton was. I think he was one of the greatest generals this country has ever known, besides George Washington.
How old were you?
And the other one was Benedict Arnold, who was a traitor to the American people. But without Benedict Arnold, United States would not be United States. He was the one that defeated the British at most of the fighting. I was 7 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were placed in a displaced person camp, waiting to be given permission to what country for us to go. Because my father knew what the communists were like, and if they took us back to Ukraine, we all would have been shot. So in 1949, we immigrated to the United States. We went to Galway, Texas for a year because the rancher paid for our voyage on a ship to the United States. And my parents had to work on the ranch for a year to work off the money that he spent for us. And in 1950, at the end of 1950, we moved to New York City. That was it.
Excuse me, but may I ask something? Well, exactly how did you escape from? How did it feel when you found out that the man that you met was George Patton, and you met one of America's greatest heroes without even knowing it?
I was overwhelmed that I had the privilege of meeting him when I was 7 years old.
And didn't even know who.
And I didn't even know who he was.
It must have felt weird to know that you met one of America's greatest heroes of all time.
Yeah.
And didn't even know it.
That's right. Now I know, and I'm proud of it, that I had the privilege, at least, of meeting him.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us about your family. I hear that you had a relative. Can you please tell us about him?
This is a relative of ours. In 1648, he was tired of the 30-year war in England. He was from Scotland, and he came looking for freedom to Ukraine. He joined the Kozaks and became a colonel. And in a fighting with the Tatars, one of the Tatars hit him with a jaw from a horse on a stick, on a long pole, and broke his nose. And he was called Broken Nose. But after the nose healed, it was crooked, And so the Kozaks call them crooked nose. In English it's Krywonos, and in Ukrainian it's Krywonos. We don't say crooked nose.
That's
In Ukrainian it is crooked nose. But in English people don't know that it means crooked nose. Till I have to explain to them.
And this is your last name?
Yeah, that's my last name.
Mm-hmm.
as you heard in the beginning when I was naming both of us. His last name must have came. His last name means crooked nose. Now that's something you don't see every day.
And it's not crooked.
Now let's say hi to Joshua.
And
Hiya.
you recording? Okay. Behind us you see the Ukrainian flag. The blue means the sky, and the yellow means the wheat of the country. This is where the bread comes from the wheat. And this is why Ukraine is the breadbasket, was and still is the breadbasket of Europe. Not just Ukraine, but of Europe, because they sell grain to all the European countries who cannot raise most of their wheat themselves, because the land is not fertile enough to do it on.
It's a very nice flag.
I like it.
Tell me, who created it?
Huh?
Tell me, who created it?
Who, what?
Who created the Ukrainian
The
flag?
Kozaks did.
Hmm.
The Kozaks did.
You've used this.
All the Kozaks, they were freedom fighters. They lived on an island on the river Dnieper, which was a big island. The only way you could get through there is on a boat through the rapids. The rapids were, on both sides, there were walls of granite rock, approximately 40, 50 feet high. And you had to shoot the rapids in order to get to the island. You had to be an experienced boatsman. And that's what the Kozaks were. The Kozaks were the greatest fighters in the world. Everybody wanted to hire them. Russia, Germany, Poland, even the Turks. Because they were better fighters than any of them. And most of them were single. They were not married. Some of the generals and the colonels were married, but most of the Cossacks were single. And they did not allow any women on this island, only men. And they were of the Orthodox faith. They had to become Orthodox in order to join the Cossacks. And the icon that they used to go into battle with was St. Mary the Protectress, with the Homophorian on her hands.
Now tell me, how come they didn't allow any women on the island?
Because they were all just for men. They were fighters. They didn't have time for women.
I see.
Women was too much restriction.
Yeah. Women can be a bit pushy sometimes.
That's enough.